Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ad Project Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Schellert from Ad Advance, and today I'm joined by Sreenath, Reddy from IntentWise. Sreenath, we're at Prosper Show together. How you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah,
This is great to be doing a podcast in this setting. It's pretty awesome.
So recording this at Prosper, I guess, just starting. And by the way, we're going to be talking and doing a deep dive into AMC. But before we even get to that, just first, give us an overview for IntentWise for people who haven't listened to the podcast before.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm one of the founders and CEO of IntentWise. We are a data and analytics platform, and we offer two solutions. One is a ad management platform for Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, and a bunch of retailers. And the other is a data automation, data store, data pipeline solution for all your critical Amazon and e-com data. So those are the two things we do.
Yeah.
And
So I always love sitting down talking to Sreenath and doing some data deep dives.
Yes.
Sreenath, you got to speak yesterday.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, what were you covering there?
So I was really talking about, with Amazon, if you look at the last 18 months, and if you look at Amazon's own tech and data stack, there's so many new things that have come about in the area of measurement, right? Amazon attribution, stream, marketing cloud, seller partner APIs. So with all that data coming at us, how do you position yourself to make the most of it was really the theme of the conversation. So I was talking about Amazon data strategy.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, one theme that we've heard a lot for the conference is people focusing on profitability.
Sure.
And one way that you can work to set yourself apart is being able to dig into the data and see insights that other people are missing and then turn those into action to get a nice competitive advantage. And so like solutions like yours where you can do that, one is getting the data.
Yes.
And then the other piece is like analyzing it and actually putting it in a useful form.
This is like you're speaking our language here, right? So in fact, yesterday I was talking to people about actually step one, what questions do you really want to answer that you're unable to?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that defines your roadmap. And step two is like, do you have the data? If you had it, what else should it be connected to? You talked about profitability.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're storing margin data internally, connecting that together, analyzing it, and then what actions do you take? So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. So one of those sources for data is now Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Yes.
So we've covered this in a couple other previous episodes, but give me your take on what Amazon Marketing Cloud is, because it's always one that especially if you go to like the AMC website, it's tough to figure out exactly what it is. So kind of break it down. What is Amazon Marketing Cloud?
Yeah, so I think for me, in just thinking about it in simple terms, if I was a shopper let's say you're selling a product, and I'm a shopper getting exposed to your DSP ads, sponsored product ads, and at some point buying.
Yeah.
And I could have seen a DSP impression, I could have seen a sponsored product, I would have clicked on a sponsored product ad, and then clicked on a sponsored display ad, and then made a purchase. Today, without AMC, in your ad console reporting, the credit of that transaction or purchase goes to the last click, which is that sponsored display click.
Sure.
You have no idea what they were exposed to before.
Yep.
So I think of Amazon Marketing Cloud as a data store where Amazon is sharing extremely granular data at the level of the shopper ID. Our user ID is a field in AMC. And every event's been an impression, a click, a conversion. And so it's really event level, shopper level data that has been made accessible to you.
Sure.
Right. So that's what AMC is now. I'm sure we'll talk more about what the heck do you do with it.
Yeah.
But in simple terms, that's how I see it.
Yeah. And so it's structured in a way where you can really tap into Amazon's data sources to stitch together the information in a way that can be useful.
That's right.
And it's a way to pull in the information from different sources too.
That's right.
Because what you're saying, so it's always going to be that last touch attribution. Correct. So whether it's last click or last view, and if you just focus on ACOS or ROAS as it's reported right there, you're going to attribute a ton of sales to those lower funnel strategies because they're going to be closest to the sale.
Correct.
So if you look at sponsored products, that's going to get a huge attribution of the sales. But if you were running an upper funnel campaign, you should be able to take credit for that too.
Correct.
And so AMC is an awesome tool to be able to stitch that all together and determine your overall return on investment for your advertising versus just looking at that last touch, which, it was closest to the sale, but did it introduce them to the brand? Did it drive them to take that next step and do a branded search and then see a sponsored product brand defense ad and click through and purchase?
And, sometimes, absolutely. And, one of the things that happens with last touch is you may end up in a situation you're either giving too much credit or too little credit to certain campaigns and certain, media spends, right?
Sure.
This is now a mechanism to understand that. And I think you talked about profitability before. This is about getting to that next level of optimization of the money you're spending. So you make the most incremental dollars you can.
Yeah, exactly. Walk us through a couple examples. I think it's kind of fun to show like exactly how we can utilize it. Like some common reports that you can pull. So maybe start with some of the key items that you see sellers really getting a lot of value out for Amazon Marketing Cloud.
It's we think about AMC in 5 buckets of use cases. And then I'll talk about the 5 buckets and then I'll talk about a couple of examples that are interesting. So the 5 buckets are understanding incrementality. An example of that, in fact, I'll jump into the example here. When you're spending money on sponsored products, you get new to brand metrics on sponsored display and sponsored brand. You don't actually get new to brand metrics on sponsored product campaigns. But we also know that, I'm sure you've seen this, Joe, where like 60, 70, maybe 80% of spend on sponsored products is sponsored product keywords and sponsored product targeting campaigns or auto campaigns.
I think over last Q4 it was 78% of our spend.
So I know. You guys are metrics guys. You know precisely what that was. AMC allows you to see new to brand metrics on sponsored product campaigns too. So that's a use case. But incrementality is what I'd bucket that under. Discovery of new audiences to optimize your DSP campaigns. That's the second bucket. Multi-touch attribution. You talked about this earlier. That's the third bucket. Just basic campaign optimization strategies. Like for example, what is my ideal exposure frequency that I should set on my DSP campaigns? You can understand that from the data. Right? And then lastly, I call it customer insights. Things like customer lifetime value. Right. Now on the 3P side, some of this is possible through the FBA reports because there are reports with a hash buyer ID you can use. But AMC can help you take that further. So those are the 5 buckets. So incrementality, audience discovery, multi-touch analytics, campaign optimization, customer insights. That's how we see the possibilities. Now, use cases, we talked about sponsored product, new to brand is a simple use case you can execute. In fact, it has nothing to do with DSP. It's you can get something out of AMC for sponsored products also. The other thing is path to conversion. It is actually one of the standard queries that AMC has in the instructional query library. By the way, if you're not aware of what instructional query library is, it's a library that Amazon has already created for you to use. Those queries require some modifications, but path to conversion is something we see people use a lot or get value out of, where you can literally see, first of all, how many touches, how many campaigns are people touching with my ad spend, and what is the associated performance? Do they just look at one campaign, or do they look at 3? What's going on, right? So, and then you can look at, hey, what happens to shoppers who have seen a DSP ad and then a sponsored product ad versus just DSP versus just sponsored products, right? So comparing relative performances. So you get to this a little bit more sophisticated view of what is going on with your ad spend. So those would be 2 examples.
Yeah, I love that. And some key use cases I've seen. So as a CMO of your business, you have to go to your CEO and justify the different advertising spend that you have. Lower funnel spend, it's typically really easy to justify because you can tie it right back to the sales. It's last touch attribution. What gets a lot harder is more of the, I'll do quotes, the brand building campaigns or the upper funnel strategies that drive more incremental people to your brand.
That's right.
And as we talk about the key reason for advertising, it's to try to drive people to buy your products that wouldn't have bought without that ad.
Correct.
And
Totally.
so the path, the customer journey.
Yes.
So this is a fun one when you can start tying in items like first touch attribution.
That's right.
Yep. So what upper funnel strategy, or maybe, or it could be a video.
Yeah.
What upper funnel ad drove people into my brand that eventually purchased?
That's right.
Yep. And then what's really cool is you can start to stitch together these different reports. So like new to brand for sponsored products.
Correct.
That's great to really calculate why we care about new to brand. Now you can look at lifetime value.
Correct.
So if I know the lifetime value, if I bring somebody to my brand and then
Yep.
once they purchase from me once, they're typically going to purchase again.
Yep.
Now I can determine the true return on my advertising just versus looking at that first sale, which
Correct.
again is how ACOS or ROAS is
Right.
reported.
Totally.
And so it just gives you a bigger, clearer picture on the overall effectiveness of your advertising.
Yes.
And then gives you insights on how to improve that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then and I think what I find we are starting to see this is AMC data combined with your sponsored product data gets even more interesting. Like for example, AMC does not have portfolios in that data, so you need to combine with your sponsored ads data to be able to get a lens of portfolio on these metrics. So AMC combined with DSP and sponsored products just gets even more powerful.
Yep.
Right. So,
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. And so let's do some other use cases. So like overlap reports. So you touched on this a bit.
Yeah.
So what we can look at and see, all right, if somebody's just, they just see a sponsored ad.
Yeah.
Or if they just see a DSP ad.
Correct.
What is the probability that they're going to purchase? Or I guess you can see the multiple on, all right, if they see both ads, they're X times more likely to purchase than seeing any of these single data points.
That's right.
Yeah. And
That's
so what's cool there, along with like the customer journey, is now you can start to figure out different combinations of advertising.
That's right.
That, okay, maybe they're exposed to an upper funnel video ad. And then after that, they see a typical display ad. And then after that, they do a branded search, come through a sponsored brand or sponsored products ad, and then finally purchase.
Yeah.
You know, it's insights like that previously weren't available for us to really track overall.
That's
and
right.
so it would be a lot harder as an advertiser to justify that video ad if I strictly looked at ROAS for that video
Just
ad.
for that ad,
it would
yeah.
look really poor just because it's so early in the sales cycle.
And you can even measure the increase in brand searches associated with that exposure.
Yeah.
Right? You could do that too in
Yep.
AMC.
Yeah. So talk through. So there's also like the purchase frequency or the overall time to conversion. Kind of walk through those cases.
Yeah. So the purchase frequency one. So you could literally see performance by cohorts of these shoppers with different levels of frequency exposure to your ad.
Sure.
Right. 4 times a week, 8 times a week, 12 times a week. And that's a setting on your DSP campaigns.
Yep.
So you could see what actually happened and be informed before you set the frequency cap on your DSP campaigns. Because otherwise, you have no idea what you should set it to.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
So yeah, that's a really fun one. Being able to determine the typical frequency from that initial introduction into ads to the actual purchase too.
Correct.
That helps set those windows.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you'll have people who are exposed to different levels of different numbers of exposures. Like you can go all the way from 0 to 16.
Sure.
And see, hey, where am I seeing the best outcome here? Does it all tail off after that fourth impression?
Yeah.
What should I set that limit or cap on the DSP campaigns?
So when you're talking to different brands or different sellers about Amazon Marketing Cloud, like when do you recommend that they actually get involved with it? What stage of their journey or where should they be at? Like when is this become like a very value-added tool?
Yeah. So first of all, this is a bit more advanced optimization. So the higher the spend, the more valuable this is going to get for you. Today, you get access to AMC if you're doing DSP. You have to have DSP spend. But I do believe that we are going to get to a place, hopefully sometime this year, where everybody will have access to AMC.
Sure.
Because the reality is, there's a lot of value to get out of AMC around sponsored products data as well.
Sure.
Right? So I think if you're doing some amount of DSP, you should be looking at AMC. That's just the basic.
Yep.
But like I said, this is going to be useful for everybody. Higher the spend, more the value from it.
Sure.
Now I will say this, right? So AMC, there's two ways to access AMC. Right? You have a web interface where you have to write SQL meaning structured query language you use to interact with databases. That's how you extract your data. Now they have provided a predefined library of use cases, but that's one way to access it.
Mm-hmm.
So having that skill on the team will become important.
Sure.
Or they should be working with you, who can do that for them. And then the other way to access it is through an API.
Sure.
So access obviously is a little bit technically difficult.
Yep.
So you just need to assess your team's skill or find the partner that can do it for you. But yeah, hope that answers your question.
Exactly. Yep. And so right now with the web interface, if you approach it and you're not comfortable with SQL, it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Sure.
The nice thing is how it's structured is there's instructional queries where you can copy the code. There will just be some notes in there and what you need to modify.
That's right.
And you can get a lot of great reports from that.
That's right.
Yep. And then there's people like us and Sreenath that's working to integrate this, make it easier for people to get into it, some custom reports so you don't have to deal with the coding itself. Yeah. And like you're saying too, we're getting really excited. Right now, we're able to pull all this information for our clients that are running DSP.
Yep.
It'll be really awesome once it's opened up for everybody, which I hope it does, because there's so many different ways that we can utilize the information, even if we're just running on the sponsored side too. There's just there's other insights that you can get that are really valuable, and we'd love to run the standard reporting for everyone there.
And I think, and I was saying this in my talk yesterday, you were at Unboxed, right? In last Q4?
Yep.
Right? And it was so clear to us the emphasis on measurement by Amazon.
Yes.
Right? And it's also clear that AMC will be that center of that measurement universe.
Yeah.
Right? So and I do believe they'll make it a whole lot easier even if you're not spending on DSP. And I think the form of access, which is today SQL or API, that probably will also get simplified.
Yep.
As we go through 2023. So
exactly. And it's a win-win for everybody too. Yeah. On the Amazon side, if we can now track from the upper funnel spend down to the sale, it makes it much easier as advertisers to justify that spend.
Yep.
So we can increase more spend on the DSP platform because we can tie it back and prove that this is truly working.
Yeah.
And so by Amazon providing and investing in this new tool, in the new data sources, it does provide us a lot more support and more data to justify those upper funnel strategies. And so right now, that's where I see the most value.
Yep.
If you're running upper funnel strategies on DSP and it's not one ad and you're immediately at the sale, if you have a longer sales cycle, that's where I see the most value. And that's where I would definitely recommend getting integrated with it. But as we're saying too, just on the sponsored side, again, you want to take things in stages. If you try to do everything at once, it can be totally overwhelming. But this will be a great tool as we go. Definitely. And people like IntentWise helping to build out nice custom reporting that's easy to access.
And
being able to get the data.
Yeah, and what we are doing is our focus around AMC is take the pain of writing these queries.
Sure.
Right. And the thing about AMC is the moment you answer a question, you'll have 10 more questions.
Yep.
Right? You have to be in a position to be able to frame those questions you have into queries and extract data.
Yeah.
We're just focused on creating that data pipeline that is a lot less technical for end users.
Sure.
So you can build whatever dashboards you want.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we are focused on.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're highly integrated and involved in talking through with the different teams. Where do you see like AMC and Amazon advertising in general going over the next year or two?
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? I mean, we've all been focused on, for the longest time on search advertising, and then came DSP.
Sure.
And then DSP is expanding also with streaming TV and Twitch and all these access you have in terms of reach. And then you've seen Amazon talk about advertising for non-endemic advertisers, right? They made a big announcement in Q4, so there's that happening.
Sure.
And you also have buy with Prime. So where is it going? I think more and more expansion of existing formats, huge emphasis on measurement, lots of emphasis on creative, especially video.
Sure.
Right? So it's and they're doing a bunch of things to support that. And then also off Amazon, whether it's buy with Prime or even non-endemic advertisers. So it's a lot, but I'd say those are the themes,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I definitely agree. And, if we look at Amazon advertising in general, one of the key opportunities is on the non-endemic side.
Yes.
And for non-Amazon speak, that means like not Amazon sellers, but utilizing Amazon's audiences and Amazon's supply network for their advertising to spend more on Amazon DSP.
Yeah.
And kind of use it. You can use it in conjunction with other advertising platforms like Google Display or Facebook ads.
Yep.
And so what we're seeing is that really building. It's going to be a major focus. It's going to be a key driver.
Yeah.
And then the metrics that come along with that, again, if we have better data to support what we're doing with those campaigns, now we're going to be able to justify and shift more spend to Amazon. If we can track it better within Amazon versus, let's say, Facebook, you're going to see more budget flowing over. And so I see a huge emphasis there. Like you're saying on the creative side too, a lot of emphasis there. As a case study for us, we were setting up DSP campaign for a non-endemic advertiser.
Sure.
We submitted so many new creatives via the API that we bogged down the system for a while.
That's good.
But then it's really fun because now you can use AMC and there's different pieces where you can even like demographic tracking and geolocation tracking and different things like that too. So there's a lot of really cool ways that we can utilize it. I see a huge emphasis there.
Yeah.
And I think the data that's going to be provided just continues to expand.
Yeah.
So again, we can justify those upper funnel strategies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's this blurring of lines. What I didn't mention and you called it out is you could buy Amazon attribution, right? You can buy ads on Google and Facebook, send them to Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Endemic, non-endemic. Buy with Prime is going to take... Buy with Prime in itself is super interesting.
Sure.
Right? So there's a lot that's going on.
Yep.
And that's a lot of data as well. And so I think Amazon is doing a ton to expose more and more metrics, but there's also work for us to organize it, make sense out of it, and ultimately deliver value to our clients. So.
Exactly. At the end of the day, what insights can we get that we can put into action from these mountains of data sources now?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Sreenath, this has been an awesome overview. For people who want to learn more about you or IntentWise, where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can certainly follow me there. And then just go to intentwise.com. So that's where you can see what we do.
Yeah.
And schedule demos if they're interested in what we do. And that's how they could reach us.
Sounds great. Yeah. So really appreciate you joining. It's fun to talk in person, having a lot of fun doing these podcasts at Prosper.
Yeah.
And for everybody listening, as always, we really appreciate you listening to the Ad Project Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Joe. This is great.